Hello and welcome to the Recursion Cafe, where we play games from the discard pile. In today's game of Star Wars Unlimited, we have Kepler on the left and Kabbage345 on the right. Kepler is playing Obi-Wan Kenobi from Twilight of the Republic with the ability to heal damage from units, along with a green 30 health base. Kabbage on the right is playing Grand Moff Tarkin, who can spend a resource to give an experience token to an Imperial unit, and is playing with a blue 30 health base. I did comment that there was no cunning to be seen anywhere at our weekly game night after the Jango ban, which was the previous day, I believe. So Kepler will start with a Harrison Dueler on the ground, and Kabbage will respond with a Dr. Pershing. So in for the long game, I think, with restore and no attack power, but plenty of card draw for the villain side as well. So moving into turn 2, we'll see if Kepler decides that Dr. Pershing's a worthy target, or he'll go straight to base as the aggro player. Kepler decides not to rush things and attack straight into Dr. Pershing. Kabbage will understandably use Pershing to draw the card. Both players still with their resources standing, waiting for the other player to make a move. Kepler will put down a Yoda, which is an excellent unit with pretty reasonably tanky stats and some card draw as well. And Kabbage will respond with a resupply. And I will respond by moving the camera closer to the players so that we can see the cards. I believe most of this game, the battle is focused on the ground arena, which the players helpfully decided was further away from the camera, but there it is. Hera will finish off Dr. Pershing to prevent any further card draw from Kabbage, and Kabbage will respond with a Power of the Dark Side, taking down Hera instead of the Yoda, which makes a lot of sense. Yoda can still swing, and there is 2 damage to base, kicking off First Blood. This is an interesting matchup because both players, I believe, are completely fine with going to the long game, and it's just a matter of card advantage and gradually board presence at this point. Kabbage deploys Tarkin, confident that nothing will kind of bring him down. He has a 2-7 stat line, so it's pretty good. And Kepler will respond with a Kanan Jarrus, again a pretty solid stat line. So Kabbage will put down a Director Krennic, probably to get full value with that Tarkin swing to give the experience over to an Imperial unit. Which is ironic since they're not exactly the best of friends in the films, but this game isn't exactly, it doesn't always line up in terms of theme. So Tarkin will take a swing at Kanan, it looks like. I believe that might have been a mistake. There should be 4 damage on Tarkin and not 2, but it's easy to miss things like this, especially when you're when you're unexpectedly on camera. But just to highlight, that was a miscalculation. And so both players are taking their time to consider what is the best option moving forward, and it looks like Kepler will play blue leader, pay two resources to move them to the ground, and then ambush in. Very powerful card, very flexible from this new set, taking down Tarkin, and Kabbage will respond with an overwhelming barrage on Krennic, who has an experience, so it'll be 5 damage spread across Kepler's board. Kanan is taken down, and there's not really enough damage left to kill either unit, so 2 damage will be put into Yoda instead there. Yoda often doing a lot of work with Restore 2, but at the moment Kepler has taken no damage to base, so Yoda is just kind of swinging into base, and is just being the violent one, and has done all of the base damage this game so far. So it's currently 0 to 4 damage on base. Krennic will swing in and take out blue leader, taking only a shield in response, which seems like a pretty decent trade. He could have gone 5 to base, but at the moment I think clearing a 5-5 on the ground seems probably more important. Now we have the pass. We're going to 6 resources on Kepler's side, which is the Obi-Wan deploy turn, and 7 for Kabbage. So Yoda once again just doing some work, clocking in and putting 2 damage to base as is, and then Krennic finally putting a stop to that, taking out Yoda. Kabbage also displaying good sportsmanship, reminding Kepler of the Yoda draw. I think he did request the card in return, but that was declined. So the board is pretty clear at the moment of units, which means that Power of the Dark Side from Kabbage's side might be quite impactful. However, Bright Hope is not exactly the biggest hit for that card, so I think it's pretty reasonable at the moment. And Kabbage plays down a Maul, just kind of preemptively. I think he was waiting for the Obi-Wan deploy, but if his opponent has already spent resources, there's no real point passing, because Kepler could just then pass and go to the next round. So there is a Phoenix Squadron A-Wing, again, not a Maul target. So Kabbage will simply just take the initiative, wait for the deploy, and swing into Obi-Wan next turn. So now Kepler has to decide whether he wants to go to base or start clearing out some of Kabbage's board. Obi-Wan can't really trade into Maul, even if he had a damage to kind of ping over to him, but instead he will take out Krennic, which I think is a pretty reasonable move there. We know, well, most likely that the first action by Kabbage will be to take down Obi-Wan. There it is. So may as well get some work done with him in the meantime. So that's Obi-Wan down and some overwhelm to Kepler's base. Maul with only 2 health left. He is vulnerable to things like make an opening or perilous position if Kepler is playing either of those. But it is the 7 resource turn, so Kepler might just be interested in playing a Luke instead. There is a Phoenix Squadron swing, so that is Cabbage's base down to 9 damage, and Kabbage will respond with a Vigilance. So we'll take down the Phoenix Squadron A-Wing, good idea to swing with that first, and heal 5. So never mind, there's only 4 damage, which is now going to 6 on Cabbage's base. Paying 6 for Vigilance does hurt, but it's such a powerful card that, yeah, it's usually pretty reasonable most of the time. Kabbage will put out a TIE Element Fighter, a 1-drop, which in Tarkin is adaptable enough to be a 3-2 if needed to start with, and there is the Luke taking down the Maul as predicted. Well, I say predicted, it's not, it's almost like I've seen this video multiple times during editing. But there it is. So here's a bunch of resource spend, and it's a no glory only results, a very succinct answer to Luke Skywalker. Unfortunately for Kabbage, there's no kind of benefit for having an on defeat like a K2SO or an Obi-Wan, but it's still just a 5 cost answer anything that's not a leader, which is pretty handy. Bright Hope just continues putting some damage into Cabbage's base. He's now down to 8 damage. The TIE Fighter is ready there. And here is a Dr. Pershing. Because swinging the TIE Fighter into a Bright Hope at the moment doesn't seem particularly fruitful. And there is Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, a card that I like quite a lot, but I just struggle to put to slot into a deck. But it does have the on-play effect of dealing 1 damage to itself to take out the TIE Fighter. And Tarkin will just stall by putting an experience onto Pershing, making him harder to kill. There's a Queel, and Kabbage will take the initiative. So the light side of the board is getting pretty big. All of these units that are pretty tanky to take down. Never mind, here's a Devastator. And Kabbage deciding where to put that damage. I think Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite is the right call because it has the potential to spike damage into the Devastator and potentially put it in range of a takedown or something like that. So Queel will attack into Pershing, again recognizing the threat of that card draw, especially in the late game, and especially since Kabbage I think is down to 1 card in hand, it looks like. So Queel will not get the draw, he mills a Yoda, and there is that draw from Pershing. Kepler, with all of his resources standing, just kind of contemplating how to handle the board there. Here's 4 resources for a direct hit, and there goes the Devastator. That is always the kind of risk playing these big units, that something like Fellow Dragon or direct hit can take them down, but that is just villains' approach to that kind of thing, and they're just hoping they have more big triangles than the other person has control events, I suppose. So once again, Dr. Pershing on his own, staring down 3 units on the other side of the board, but again his job is just card draw and not to tangle with any of them. Queel will attack into Pershing, taking him down, and taking 1 damage back because of the experience. There is a restore and a discard of a Ewing Reinforcement, which is green. It matches the base for Obi-Wan, so it does get drawn by Kepler. Queel just such value when it lines up, really. Here's a Vader on the other side, and Kabbage will search the top 10 cards of his deck for some number of villain units, and it is a Phase 3 Dark Trooper, which is a solid little Sentinel. Vader will also punch into Kanan and take him out so that the Sentinel can maybe hang around for a little bit. We are around the 10-11 resource mark, and we've got 10 damage on one base and 1 damage on another. But I get the feeling that this is where both decks want to be, because they seem geared for the late game. So there's another Luke. A unit has died, so he can kill anything on the board, and he will take down the Vader just to not have to deal with that 5 damage swing back. A Phase 3 Dark Trooper is a roadblock, but it can be cleared relatively easily anyway. So Kabbage will take the initiative, and Bright Hope will swing for 2 more, just chipping away. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Super Laser Blast, but I think this might be a good use case for it. However, we know that Kepler's just drawn a Ewing Reinforcement into hand, and so Kabbage might want to wait for that to be played before considering any sort of board wipe or anything similar. There is a Perilous on Luke, which is an excellent answer, makes it easier to kill him, as well as shutting down the restore and the big 9 damage swing, essentially. There is a Forces With Me, played on Queel, Notably, the unit that is attacking does not have to be the force unit to trigger the shield as well, which makes it just a lot more flexible. And the amount of action compression it does into one card is pretty good. So Queel, buffed up with 2 experience, will kill the Phase 3 Dark Trooper and draw a General's Blade and restore 1 and not take any damage because of the shield. So an incredible amount of stuff happening in one action. But yeah, it's not an often seen card, Forces With Me, but I think in certain circumstances it does have just incredible value. Here's a Power of the Dark Side with 3 units on the board. I think, Kepler has a range of choice there. He decides to take down the buffed Queel, which is interesting because he just invested into that unit. I personally might have chosen the Bright Hope, but it depends on what Kepler has in hand or what he's kind of thinking of. Kepler, I think, deciding to go for the more aggressive route, playing Hu Yang on that ready unit, making the most of the fact that he didn't choose to kill it. Kabbage responding with another ground sentinel, just putting up as many barriers as possible, which is quite annoying because Hu Yang can't really kill it on his own. There is the token on the Bright Hope to mark the Hu Yang, and so Bright Hope swinging for 4 into Cabbage's base is pretty hefty. Now there is Tarkin using his ability to buff the Phase 3 Dark Trooper, putting even more out of Hu Yang's range. And this, of course, Kepler has another Forces With Me or something similar for next turn. So Kepler takes initiative, and we move on. So typically by this point in the game, from a villain blue-green perspective, we see stuff like Avenger and Snoke coming down, and I suppose the response from the hero side would probably be something like a Home 1 or a Redemption. So far, nothing like that. Here's a big blue leader. Again, very adaptable card. It scales well into the late game. A 5/5 ambush on the ground is nothing to sniff at. And Kabbage will respond with a reasonably big unit, a Reinforcement Walker. We'll discard a resupply off the top, which is pretty handy to heal 3 on play. While it is a big unit, it doesn't stop Kepler from swinging straight to base past it. One good card in this kind of situation would be the new Dogfight, which would allow Reinforcement Walker to attack even while exhausted, potentially taking down Luke, and also firing its on-attack ability. But it's not an off-run card, that one, so it's pretty hard to justify a slot for it in a villain green-blue control deck. Here's Iden Versio as a pilot onto the Reinforcement Walker, giving it a shield. So that thing is huge right now. That is a 9/12 with a shield, and it will heal on attack. So really fantastic, beefy unit. Kepler will just kind of walk by it and carry on swinging, and Kabbage will take the initiative. He is hurting quite a lot on his base now, and there is a direct hit making that Reinforcement Walker really sad. I think with a value shift like that, that's probably the end of the game there. Kabbage losing 11 resources worth of units to a 4-cost event from Kepler's side. It's a shame that unit didn't stick around. It would have been fun to see how it tangled with Kepler's side of the board, but that was the most efficient way to remove it, so why not? Here is a Super Commando squad with a shield, and it is Sentinel, and it has excellent synergy with Tarkin because, of course, Tarkin can upgrade it natively and just keep that Sentinel up. So Bright Hope will continue swinging in for 4 now that it's buffed by Hu Yang, and the base will go to 26 damage, I believe. So 4 health left on base, and I think Kabbage sees the writing on the wall, but he's gonna try and hold out as long as he can. So there is that experience with the Super Commando squad, just to keep it up in case that shield gets taken out in any sort of other way. And both players contemplating their options. And there is a General's Blade on Hu Yang, so I think, yeah, that's a pretty convincing board. Kepler can play even more units at a discount. There is a Power of the Dark Side from Kabbage to just try and stem the flow of aggression that's coming his way, but I think there's the concession soon thereafter.
Yeah, well played. Yeah. Where are my Avengers? There's my Fell, there's No Glory, there's OB, there's OB, there's Vader, there's Fell, there's Avenger, there's Reaper. What is this? All my good cards at the bottom of the deck. Oh, terrible. Are you running Super Laser Blast? No, not in the main deck. Well, I don't think in the sideboard either. I feel like I just don't. I don't know, I saw a lot of lists not running, like the blue control. I can probably see why they run it, because that would save it, but yeah, fair play.
And there we have it. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know what you think of this kind of format and if it kind of suits Unlimited well. Drop a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.